Chapter 16 Dirty Secrets. Malik. Malik was at the bar, chatting it up with some of his guests when all of a sudden he saw Byron in front of him. The next thing he knew, the bones in his cheek and nose shattered. He growled as the pain of them healing was greater than the blow itself. He straightened himself and waved off the bouncers. "It's all right, I'll handle this." He turned and looked at Vanessa, who was clumsily pushing her way through the gawking crowd, then back to Byron. "You and me outside." He grabbed Byron by the throat and dragged him outside. Vanessa and Riley were desperately trying to follow, but Malik made it so they couldn't find them. He shapeshifted into fog and raised Byron to the roof of the building, slamming him on the ground. "Are you trying to get yourself killed, Owens? It's a shit deal and you know it. I didn't ask to be saved that day." Byron coughed as he got to his feet. "No, you didn't. However, she asked me to save you, so I made the deal. I thought you'd be more appreciative of what she's done for you. Instead, the first night I grant you two the ability to see each other, you spend it telling her how stupid she is." Malik clicked his tongue and shook his head. "Why do you even want her anyway?" Byron asked. Malik lifted a one-shoulder shrug. "I simply wish to get to know her. I don't keep her on a tight leash so you can lose that bind in your britches. Doesn't matter. I can't live like this. So just kill me and let her go." Malik studied him a long moment and rubbed his chin and thought. "You know, when she asked me to spare you and kill her instead, I thought you'd be on your merry little way, living your best life. Instead, you tell her how you're constantly worried about her." He grabbed Byron by the collar and pushed him into a wall. "We all know that isn't exactly the truth now, is it? You and Riley have been having a little fun of your own. You two have been getting yourselves through this all right. More like getting into one another." "Get out of my head," Byron hissed. "Yes, what a stupid mistake she made sparing you. Now you and the spicy little redhead can be alone and scratch the itch you two felt walking into the party the first night they got here." "It's not like that." Byron growled and shoved him away. "So touchy." Malik smirked. "Tell me, Byron, why are you trying to get yourself killed when you have it so good with the little sister's best friend?" "Because it's another reason I don't deserve to live." "Ouch, imagine if Riley heard you say that. I like her, but I shouldn't have seen her." "Not like that. As Vanessa told you in the bar." "Yes, I was listening. What's done is done. Please don't tell her what's going on between me and Riley. We're trying to figure out how to tell her." "Ah, don't you worry, big brother," Malik mocked. "I won't tell her a thing. I will, however, not let tonight go unpunished. I forbid her to see you and Riley." "No. No, Malik, please. I put her through so much. I need to make it up to her. You and Riley can really cling to one another now. You're punishing Vanessa by doing this. You want to know why I made a deal with her in the first place?" Malik interrupted. Byron silenced his pleas. "Why?" "Because I respect her. She has a bigger pair of balls and more integrity than you have right now. I turned you because I saw a lot of myself in you when I first met you. What you were willing to do for your sister, I would have done the same thing for my family when I had one. I chose to make a deal with her too because I didn't want to lose you. How dare you take what she's done and deem her stupid? Especially when you're sleeping with her best friend. You don't deserve what she's done for you." Byron fell to his knees. "Man to man, I'm her big brother. I'm supposed to be protecting her. She shouldn't have to do this for me." Malik rolled his eyes. "She knows that. She thought of this as something she could do for you since you sacrificed so much for her. She hasn't come outright and said it, but it's what she thinks constantly. Her doing that doesn't make you less of a man, but the stupidity you displayed downstairs, sleeping with Riley behind her back, that is what makes you worthless." Chapter 17. It's the little things. Vanessa. She wasn't sure how, but she found Malik and Byron. Ever since she came to New York, she felt she had a sixth sense of some kind. For not being familiar with things, she was able to find her way when she wanted to find them. She couldn't get to the roof where they were, but she had a gut feeling that's where they were. Malik was the one to jump off the roof and land on his feet. "Where's Byron?" she asked. "How the hell did you find your way out this way?" Malik asked. Vanessa shrugged. "I don't know, I just did." "Why?" Malik shook his head. "Still trying to figure out how you found your way to the courtroom. Maybe I just have good instincts when I'm feeling determined. Maybe, but you and I are going home early tonight." "What? Why?" Malik looked at her. "Byron did a stupid thing trying to get himself killed tonight. The punishment, you two aren't to see each other until I decide otherwise. Same goes for Riley." "That's not fair. You can't punish me for something Byron did." Malik grabbed her by the arm and dragged her to the limo, kicking and hollering. "Malik, you can't punish me," she cried out. Malik stopped at the door of the limo. You forget that you took his place in death, did you not? What he does to get in trouble, it punishes you too. Thought you were smarter than that. Vanessa shook herself from his grip and started sprinting back into the club as fast as her feet would carry her. Who the hell did he think he was? He'd basically called her stupid in his own way. She nearly reached the door when Malik appeared in front of her. What do you think you're doing? Getting away from you. Malik chuckled and shook his head. That was a noble effort, but I'm just a human. A stupid one at that. She interrupted. Malik reached out to touch her but stopped. He seemed to have realized how he contributed to her pain that night. I didn't mean it that way. She shook her head and wiped tears from her eyes. It doesn't matter. I don't care how you meant it. I'm nothing to you. I get that. I just wanted to save my brother and now all I hear is how stupid and pathetic I am. She shoved him aside, and he let her. She stormed to the limo, opened the door herself and slammed it shut. Vanessa sat in the back and watched Malik approach the driver window, then turned to go back into his club. The driver took off in the direction of the mansion. She laid her head back wondering why what Malik thought of her bothered her so much. One minute he seemed caring, the next she was just a human who apparently wasn't as smart as he thought. It didn't help that Byron's words cut through her like a rusty blade. She didn't do what she did for a thank you, though that would have been nice, she just needed her big brother. Now because of his stupidity, she wouldn't even have that for God knows how long. The limo dropped her off and she went inside, made her way upstairs and into a hot shower, and allowed her mind to sort through it all. When she turned off the water, she got dressed and curled up on her bed. A soft knock at her door brought her to her feet again and groaned, knowing there could have only been one person on the other side. She opened the door and there Malik stood with a box of piping hot pizza and a bottle of Coke. The aroma caused her stomach to make it obvious how inviting it was. I said a wrong thing and I'd like to apologize. Malik offered a cheeky smile and held it out to her. She wanted to take the pizza, shove it down his pants and kick him. But it smelled so good. It was a local pizza joint too. It would be a shame to waste that authentic New York pizza goodness. Vanessa snatched the box and Coke before she could even argue with herself. Damn her dumbass for skipping dinner to get ready for the night. I hate you. She scoffed and slammed the door in his face. She set the pizza on the bed and opened it. Pepperoni, it looked charred and crispy around the edges. She looked at how large the pizza was and thought maybe one slice could be sacrificed. Just one. She opened the door again and saw Malik standing there with an amused expression on his face. How much is that blazer you're wearing? More than you can make in a lifetime, why? Vanessa slapped the slice of pizza against his blazer and rubbed it all over him. Just acting my type. She cackled and slammed the door again. She crawled back on the bed and basked in the triumph of her petty action as she devoured the pizza. The only thing that bothered her at that point was how happy she was to see Malik at her bedroom door with a pizza. The gesture was so simple and yet, she realized it meant more to her than she cared. Chapter 18. Aggressive Feelings. Malik. Despite being able to read her mind and predict her actions, Malik was still taken aback by her smearing a perfectly good slice of pizza into his blazer. He allowed her to have her moment. Sure, it was petty, but she deserved a tiny little win that night. If ruining a blazer would make her feel better, then so be it. However, it didn't stop there. The girl took advantage of her daytime freedom to destroy other little things around the house. His blazer was one thing, but going around knocking books off the shelf in the library, breaking fine china in the kitchen. You would think it would wear on his patience, but Malik couldn't blame her. How else is a fragile being supposed to get aggression toward a vampire they don't stand a chance against out? One night, he snuck up on her in the bathroom. She was about to do some artistic things with toothpaste on the mirror. Honestly, he knew she was mad. But couldn't she see the self-punishment it all caused her? In her mind it didn't matter. Finally at your wit's end? Vanessa sneered. Malik licked his lips and shook his head. It doesn't bother me. But clearly, whatever has you pissed is still not worked out. You want to duke it out with me? Then let's go. Vanessa raised her eyebrows. What? Miss Owens, you've been having a tantrum for days. Please stop taking it out on my house and just come take it out on me. She shot him a disgusted look. I'm not that kind of girl. Malik threw his head back in laughter. I mean, that would be very satisfying for both of us, but that is not what I meant. Follow me. He led her down to the basement where he had a fully functioning gymnasium. He took her to the boxing circle and tossed her a pair of gloves before taking off his shirt to reveal six-pack abs and biceps to take to the gun show. He smirked to himself when he heard Vanessa's pulse quicken. He turned and held his hands out in the open. Hit me. Vanessa looked at him in confusion. Why bother? It won't do anything. I'm just Shut up and hit me. He interrupted. He swore to God if she were to say that one more damn time, he didn't know. Vanessa was taken aback, but quickly obliged his request to punch him. She missed his hand and stumbled into him. Damn, her clumsiness could be cute sometimes. He steadied her. You can do better than that. Listen to my voice. She grumbled and widened her stance, holding up her gloves. Don't you find this weird? You're teaching me how to kick your ass. Malik shook his head. If I don't teach you, then how could you? I'm the one you want to hurt, right? So do it. Hurt me. Vanessa swung at him and made contact with his chest. Malik didn't budge. Not bad, care to try again? Come on V, put some effort into it. I am. She squealed out in frustration as she went to swing and barely made contact with his face. Malik seized her wrist and held her still. You don't have to stand with your feet so wide. This is boxing, not gymnastics. Bring your feet closer together, arms at the chest level. When you go to swing, don't straight shoot your arm. Swing it. He slowly backed away when her stance was corrected. Now try again. Vanessa swung her arm wider and delivered a proper right hook to his face. Malik stumbled backward. It hardly did any damage, but it was a solid hit. Good. Now punch me again. Vanessa took another swing at him with her opposite arm, and hit the other side of his face. Again, it wasn't very strong against him, but it caused him to stumble a bit. He went to say something when she hit him again. And again. And again. He relented and allowed her to get it all out. She wore herself out and Malik grabbed her arms. Let me go, she screamed. Malik held her down. You're going to be sore in the morning if you keep it up. I don't care. I'm not stupid and I didn't do what I did to bring Byron down. Malik pulled her into his arms and she didn't fight him. He could feel how much Byron's words hurt her that night. He was not the only one she wanted to hurt. He'd taken away her right to say something to the brother that degraded her. What was the real reason he didn't want them to see one another now? Was it because Byron was such a jerk that night and wanted to punish him? Or was it because Byron was a jerk who was sleeping with her best friend behind her back and he wanted to protect her from all of it? How could he protect her from a hurtful fact she doesn't even know? He wouldn't tell her, not out of respect for Byron's request, but because she just didn't need to know. He released her, but she kept her grip on his shoulders and went to raise a knee into his groin. He spun her and tackled her to the floor, her arms pinned above her head. I wouldn't do that if I were you. And why not? She asked. Because deep down you know you want it. Chapter 19, Hunter or Hunted. Vanessa. Vanessa raised her hips and threw him off kilter. She got to her feet and punched him in the face. The hit actually made his nose bleed. Stop being such a DCK, she said and ran back upstairs. It didn't matter that it was nighttime. She couldn't be in that house another second. Vanessa grabbed a jacket and ran outside. She ran and she ran until her lungs felt like exploding. She'd made it a couple blocks before having to stop to breathe. Damn that lag in her cardio. She collapsed against a building and coughed. Her lungs fought for air. Her thighs and calves felt as though they could incinerate the entire upper Manhattan area. Vanessa took a long moment to catch her breath, and when it evened out, she looked around her surrounding areas. She was in some deserted area, only lit by city lights. At first she felt relieved, like she had gotten some alone time that she needed. No hili, no Byron, no freaking Malik. But that peaceful feeling was ripped away just as fast as it came. It started with a cloud of mist, and Vanessa knew better than to assume it was Malik this time. Not wanting to deal with it, she went to run when suddenly she was face to face with pale green eyes, blonde hair, and a smile as sinister as it was sexy. Good evening, Miss Owens. Oh, Vanessa exclaimed after jumping in surprise. You're Alfred, right? Alfred nodded. Pleased to see you remember. Vanessa nodded warily. It's not like I see a ton of new faces these days. Alfred chuckled. Ouch. What a way to tear down a man's pride. These days we call it an ego, and yes, you have one. I prefer to think of it as confidence. Okay, I'll give you that. Vanessa chuckled and ran a hand through her sweaty, damp hair. So, are you going to ask me those cliché questions? What's a girl like you doing out a night in a city like this by herself? Alfred had an amused expression on his face. Actually, Miss Owens, our meeting tonight isn't random. I was on my way to Malik's when I saw you run outside. You were the one I wanted to see, so I followed you. If you're here to kill me at this point, I welcome it. I saved my brother, who I'm sure is sleeping with my best friend behind my back, and all I've heard about it is how stupid I am. I'm stuck with Malik's mixed signals, so death is a tender mercy at this point. Such a powerful bloodline and so willing to give up. Alfred muset. Vanessa's brows furrowed in confusion. What is that supposed to mean? As tasty as you were the other night, and as tempting as the offer is to have every ounce of that warm nectar pumping through your veins all to myself, I will not be taking your life. As a matter of fact, that distinct flavor of your blood is what brought me here tonight. See, Alec and I thought there was something familiar about you, and when we tasted you it was confirmed. You, Vanessa, come from a bloodline that's very important to the Balthazars. Vanessa stood there in complete and utter disbelief. Just what was this 16th century pompous prick yammering on about? I didn't even know vampires existed before coming out to New York. My parents died when I was 15 years old, and I never knew my grandparents. The rest of the family wasn't associated with us. Whatever you think I am, I swear on my life that I am not who you're thinking of. You have the wrong girl. She went to walk away when Alfred stopped her with a question. Have you noticed some strange instincts lately? You're able to find things. Vanessa turned around. Well, I've been able to find my brother, but I thought that was just instinct. When Malik went to execute him, though I didn't know the building, I found him. Alfred nodded. That was instinct, yes. However, that's not one many possess. No one is able to just find things like that. Get to the point. Vanessa scoffed. Alfred chuckled. Just like your ancestor. Vanessa arched her brows with curiosity. My ancestor? Alfred smirked and finally began to explain. I'll start with some history. Vampires originated in Europe, and with the birthing of the beast, so came the hunter. The Balthazars were the first vampire family. The Owens were the hunters. I was in love with your ancestor Katrina Owens. Oh, do you resemble her in so many ways? From your skin to your hair, and the eyes are a dead giveaway. The Cromwell family came from the African lands and threatened our family. Katrina and I worked together as vampire and hunter to destroy their entire bloodline. Malik survived because his arrival was delayed. He didn't seem to share his family's malicious intent, so he lived, and when we wanted to come to this land, we gave him this city. Vanessa stood there listening quietly, absorbing all this information. She never questioned why their family was so isolated, nor did she really bother with learning any type of family history. But this Alfred coming forward and stating these things, they oddly made sense, but at the same time, could she really trust him? Say everything you're telling me is true, and I'm not entirely sure I can trust you. What does any of this have to do with me now? Are you trying to get me to replace Katrina or something? Alfred laughed. Now who has the ego? Don't flatter yourself, darling. I'm not here to make you mine. Despite similarities, there's never been another for me. Malik probably finds your name familiar, but he has been too damn intrigued with you to care about where he might have heard that name before. Vanessa, you are an Owens. Because that nitwit Malik turned Byron, you are the last surviving of the Hunter bloodline. And as such, you must carry out your duty. And what exactly is my duty? She scoffed. Malik killed Katrina after he found out that the family of Hunters killed his family. You, Vanessa, are to finish off the Cromwell bloodline by killing Malik. Chapter 20, closed. Vanessa. After Alfred had told Vanessa she had to be the one to kill Malik, she was handed a gun. This belonged to Katrina. It's only fatal to vampires. But you must shoot in the right place. Your hunter instincts will know. Vanessa pushed the gun away. And what if I choose not to fulfill this said calling from a woman I've never even met? I don't want to kill anyone. Alfred looked her in the eyes and grabbed her head, muttering a spell. Awake is the beast, awake now the hunter. Vanessa felt as if a surge of electricity had gone through her body. It was as though she was dead before, and it jolted life into her. Her vision sharper, hearing heightened, sense of smell greater than the wolf on the prowl. What did you do to me? She asked as she looked herself over. I woke up the hunter. Malik can train you. It'll make an ironic ending for his pathetic life. With that, Alfred disappeared into the night. Vanessa walked back to the manor, her head suddenly whirling with things. She felt oddly inclined to talk to Malik, as though hearing it from him made it more believable, trustworthy. She thought it best not to let Malik see the weapon. She set out to look for a place to hide it in the city, at least for the night. In the morning she would get a safe for it and store it in a unit. Her mind was too overwhelmed to do anything else that night. Malik seemed to pick up on it when she came through the door. Oddly enough, hearing Alfred tell her she had to kill him made her feel more protective of him, that he wasn't the guy he made himself out to be. She didn't realize how much the command bothered her until she looked at him. I apologize for being a perv earlier, he said. Vanessa shrugged. I got all my frustrations out. I'm not mad anymore. So you forgive me? He flashed that damn charming grin that could drop her panties if she let it. She rolled her eyes. I forgive you. I'm tired, may I go to bed? What happened out there? He asked. I had a good run and now I'm beat. Can I just go to bed? V, you look different. Not in the sweaty just went for a run kind of way. Are you okay? Vanessa stopped. It was the first time he'd called her V. Everyone else she knew called her that. Riley called her that, Byron called her Little V. Yet none of it tugged at her heart the way it did when that simple letter rolled off his tongue. I feel different. But right now I can't. She shook her head. On second thought, could she really talk about her conversation with Alfred? If Malik knew she was the ancestor of the woman that had his family killed, what would that mean for her? What would that mean for them? Who knew taking a break from a constant Malik would make her realize she didn't actually want to lose him? He may have taken her in place of killing her brother, but they'd formed this weird bond in the last few weeks. She ruined his damn blazer with pizza, passive-aggressively took her frustrations out on the house, yet he took her and encouraged her to take it all out on him, which she did and he let her. Why was he so kind in his own odd way? Why did she like it? V, Malik said. And that was all he needed to say for her to understand the subtext. You can talk to me. You can trust me. Despite the situation, you don't have to be my prisoner. She turned to look at him. Malik, good night. She scurried up the stairs and into her room. She looked at herself in the mirror and he was right. She did look different. Not in a dramatic way but more alert. She closed her eyes and focused on her hearing. She began to pick up noises she'd never heard before. She could hear Malik walking through the house, the slight drip of water from the bathroom sink down the hall. She opened her eyes as a sudden realization came to her. Malik had always prided himself that he could see into her mind. It was something she found imposing and rude, yet somehow she took great comfort in knowing he could see through her. In a way it kept her on her guard. She was more careful in her thoughts. She looked at herself in the mirror once more, and it hit her why Malik was so damn worried. What made her different to him was not her appearance, but the fact that the window to her mind was now blocked from his vision. Chapter 21, Tender Mercy. Malik. Something shifted that night. He chose not to go after her, mostly due to the fact her thoughts indicated it wouldn't be appreciated, yet he felt like maybe he should have. And when she came through the main doors, he knew his feeling was correct. Something happened with her. She looked visibly distressed, and normally Malik could look into her mind and know what she needed in that moment. He wanted to be the one to give it to her. But that night, it was as though an invisible force blocked him from her thoughts, and if he was honest with himself, it terrified him. He hoped after a bit, whatever blocked him from her thoughts would wear off. Over the next few days he tried desperately to get into her mind. Even when she slept, he snuck into her room and tried to get into her head at her most vulnerable moments. Nothing. Just a troubled look on her face. She wouldn't talk to him about that night, and it aggravated him to no end. One night he went in to try, and she was stirring in her sleep. Whatever she was dreaming was a nightmare. At that point he would take her hand, enter her mind and control the dream. He'd done it before. How did she think those steamy dreams she had after he bit her got so vivid and hot? Now she was there to suffer through it on her own. She shot up from her bed, gasping and crying. She screamed when she saw Malik standing beside her bed. He grabbed her arms and spoke to her in a soothing voice. It's okay V, it's just me. Malik was apprehensive about calling her V. Mostly because only loved ones called her that. And when he called her that for the first time that night, he caught the small smile on her face and he continued to call her that. It was the only time her emotions appeared on her sleeve. His voice woke her up and brought her back to reality. What are you doing in here? She asked in a sleepy yet distressed voice. I heard you stirring. Malik lied as he lowered his arms slowly. I came to see if you were all right. We have a rule, you stay out of my room, and I stay out of yours. Was that an official rule or one you just made up in your head and assuming I could read your mind, it was a silent agreement? Vanessa shook her head. You don't need to be here. I can handle myself. Malik lowered his head and sighed. I'll be leaving then. I've got to check up on things at Lust anyway. Your brother is on cleaning duty along with others that have pissed me off recently. And then she reached out and seized his hand. He couldn't read her mind, but he felt the desperation in her touch. Malik, her voice cracked. Please, please don't leave. He turned to look at her. Tenderness emanated from his eyes as fear and uncertainty reflected from hers. You don't want me to leave? I know you can't read my thoughts anymore, and it frustrates you. For some reason I find myself wishing you could. Then open up to me. She blinked some tears loose. I can't. Malik sat down on the bed and reached up, brushing the tears from her eyes. Yes, you can. No, I can't. Not yet. She shook her head, Her hands trembled as they gripped his shirt. I haven't had a nightmare like that since my parents died. Byron used to come sit in my room until I fell asleep. I wish you could read my thoughts because it would make things so much easier. Easier because you wouldn't have to say it? She nodded. Well, for one so brave, I think you're definitely capable of speaking your mind to me. Right here, right now. Will you stay with me tonight? In here. Malik smiled softly and brushed her bed head from her face. I will stay with you, if that's what you truly want. She gazed into his eyes and nodded. He took off his shoes and removed his button-up shirt, leaving his white undershirt on. And for the first time in the weeks she'd been there, he laid beside her and held her close to him. She relaxed against him and fell back to sleep with ease. He stayed with her all night, even into the morning. When she woke up, he went to go back to his room. He expected her to stay in that day and relax in the library after the night that they had. Instead, he heard her open the front door, and though it would normally be to go out, he knew what she was doing. He shot out of his room and whooshed down the stairs and stood in front of the door. Just where do you think you're going? Vanessa rolled her eyes. You said the day was mine. So I'm taking it. I told you that you're not to see him. Malik growled with warning. She shoved him aside with force that surprised them both. Please do as I say. Or what, I might find out he and Riley are sleeping together. I already know. Sort of put two and two together when she thought she discreetly slapped his ass that night in the club. Or do you just think somehow last night we grew close and I would obey you today? She chuckled cruelly. I have to talk to him. Byron's gone. Malik rubbed a hand over his face. Byron's not there. He mysteriously disappeared last week. Chapter 22, Covered in Blood. Vanessa. Vanessa's jaw dropped and her hands covered her mouth as if to hold all the shock inside her. What do you mean he mysteriously disappeared? You said he was on cleaning duty at the club last night. Malik went to reach for her but she pulled back. You're not just saying this to keep me away from him, are you? She asked. Malik dropped his hand and shook his head. No, he really has disappeared. Vanessa hit his arm and he winced in pain. Why didn't you say anything? Or did it not matter because you forbade me from seeing him anyway? Malik's arm healed and he shook his head again. I didn't know how to tell you. And with whatever is going on with you, I especially didn't know how to bring it up with you. It does matter. He was telling the truth. He looked at a loss of how to even proceed with the conversation. Frankly, neither did she, but they both gave it a shot anyway. Are you at least doing something about it? Malik looked at her as though she just asked the dumbest question on the planet. Of course I am. You really think so little of me. For the first time since Vanessa met him, he truly looked lost and pained. He wore his emotions on his shoulders around her. She'd seen Malik act like a composed and arrogant king in his club, and when he's handling business with the city. But when it was just them, he was just a man that had no idea what to do or say around her. Vanessa shook her head. Riley. Malik closed his eyes and blew out a breath. Gone too. Malik, I need to go there. It wasn't a demand, it wasn't a challenge, it was a plea. I'll get the car. He said, and within minutes the limo pulled up. I'm coming with you. From him, not a demand or a challenge, but a plea. They got in the car and rode to Lust, walking straight to Byron's condo. Vanessa opened the door, and the sight of the condo made her stomach drop. The place looked like it had been trashed like a hotel room by a wannabe rock star. The signs of a struggle were everywhere. The pots from his plants were shattered, the dirt all over the floor, along with blood in various places. Likely Riley using her bar fight techniques. She rushed to Byron's room and saw blood on the floor and walls. The trail led to the hall and stopped. She went into the back room and there was a note on the nightstand addressed to her. You don't want to kill Malik, however. We really need you to carry out your family's duty. Due to your hesitation, we've taken Byron and Riley. The negotiation is simple. Kill Malik or we kill Byron and Riley. Choose wisely, Miss Owens. Yours truly, Alec and Alfred. She crumpled the note in her hand. Sadness and confusion became anger. Malik's soft voice echoed from the doorway. She turned to face him, and though she wanted to go to him, she'd fallen to her knees instead. They're dead. It was a complete and total lie. A lie that would keep everything as it was for the time being. Vanessa. Malik frowned deeply, sincerely. She shook her head. It's obvious, isn't it? The blood tells everything. You really believe they're dead? I don't believe it. I know it. I'm so sorry, his voice shook. I don't know who could have done this. If this was one of my men, I promise you. She stood to her feet and faced him. You don't need to do anything. They're gone. And I have no one left. I suppose since he's dead. I'm not leaving you, Malik. We made a deal. You didn't kill him, therefore my eternal debt is still with you. Why would you want to stay with me? I'm setting you free. Vanessa took a breath, and her chest moved in a way that made breathing look as though it weighed her down. Where else am I going to go right now? If you stay with me, and you're welcome to, just know it's by your choice. She nodded. I want to stay. Malik offered a crooked smile. I still think we need to find out who did this. Vanessa knew, and she was grateful Malik couldn't read her thoughts. She dropped the note that was now a ball of paper on the floor. Who would have thought a trip to New York to see her long-lost brother would spin her world out of control? To add to it, her hunter legacy had been thrust onto her. Things were messy. Things continued to spiral. But there were two things Vanessa was sure of: she would get Byron and Riley back, and Malik Cromwell would not have to die in the name of it. Chapter 23 Owens. Malik. Malik may not be able to read her mind, but he saw right through that lie. He would go with it for the time being. That was what she needed. Why she told him they were dead he didn't know. What he did know was he would be what she needed. He wasn't sure when it happened. The girl intrigued him when he saw her inside Byron's mind. And meeting her in person, all grown up, all woman, he was easily fascinated. Then when he went to rip Byron's heart from his chest, those eyes are what stopped him. They bore into him like a storm sent to give him clarity. She was so willing to give everything up for a brother who had to do her wrong because Malik forced this life on him. Did the world really deserve Vanessa Owens? Did he? She was like a white rose that bloomed out of a pile of shit. Shit being her parents' death, her brother ghosting her best friend sleeping with her brother behind her back, and him binding her exclusively to him in place of her brother. Somewhere along the way, he grew to care for his little white rose. He offered to let her go. She refused, insisting that they had a deal they needed to stick out. Was it honoring the deal or something else? God, what he wouldn't give to have so much as a glance at the surface of her mind. Why would she stay? She certainly didn't have to. It was obvious, wasn't it? Where else would she go? Not to mention he still didn't know who took Byron and Riley. Where did they go from here? His question was answered later that night when Vanessa came to him. Do you know how to shoot a gun? She asked. He chuckled and shook his head. I'm over 500 years old. I know how to shoot a gun. Why do you need to learn to shoot? Because I've been doing some research in your library, studying up on the history of vampires. I read somewhere about hunters, how they can use a gun to kill them. And just who are you thinking of killing? Not one of my guys. She rolled her eyes and shook her head. I want to learn so when I find the son of a bitch who took Byron and Riley and killed them, I will end them. Malik folded his arms across his broad chest. That's awfully confident of you. No offense, V, you are many extraordinary things, but a vampire hunter is not one of them. It's not a skill you can simply learn. Besides, I haven't seen a hunter in centuries. Vanessa closed her eyes and took in a long breath through her nose as if to establish control of herself in that moment. So make me one. Malik furrowed his brows. I don't have that kind of power. She stepped closer to him and grabbed one of his hands with both of hers. Those oceanic eyes gazed into his and he found himself spellbound. You don't need to have that power. Just teach me everything you know about fighting and hunting. You're a predator, please show me how I can be. Malik didn't see it possible. Then again, he'd hardly thought about it, but she was stronger than she was when she first met him. And the annoying fact, he suddenly couldn't read her mind. Over the years, Malik had made a pact with himself to forget a hideous past. He would allow the details of his family's horrific death to be blocked from his mind. He destroyed their killer and swore to forget their name. He never imagined it could be triggered, but Vanessa coming up to him, pleading with him to teach her how to hunt, he began to put the pieces together. He thought back to the night he first met Byron and he heard his last name, Owens. Then he looked at her. Curious features she possessed. So familiar. Memories he'd buried long ago came flooding back into his mind, and a flashback came creeping in. He'd come to England from the African land centuries ago. He came to greet his family that had traveled ahead of him. He had to stay behind due to a conflict between the pure-blood vampires and ones that had lost their humanity. He had to clean up a mess a few had run from. Oh dear, is that your family? A smooth, masculine, British-accented voice asked. Did you do this? Malik asked. A tall, blond man came out of hiding wearing a back-top hat and trench coat. Not me in particular. Who are you? Malik growled. How rude of me, I'm Alfred Balthazar. Balthazar, the origin of pure bloods? Alfred nodded. You've heard of us. Why is my family dead? I do apologize, the Balthazars are the oldest and strongest vampires. Your family came in with ill intent and my good friend, from the hunter bloodline, had to put an end to them. Malik ran after him and went to kill him on the spot, but Alfred blocked his attack. A strong arm pulled him back and pointed a gun to his head. Now Malik, you can be sad about this loss. I would be. But you have a choice. You can die with the rest of them, or live and be part of our coven. Malik growled and struggled against his restraint and broke free. He turned to see a beautiful woman. She was in a satin green dress, all her hair up, corset around her waist. Malik, like all purebloods, could read the minds of everyone around them, but this woman's mind was blocked. She wore black lace knuckle-cut gloves and slipped the gun in her holster.
I'm Katrina Owens.
The hunter. Owens. Malik came back to reality and looked at Vanessa. Vanessa Owens. That's where he heard that name before. He didn't want to believe it. Not his white rose. He shook his head. I don't need to teach you a damn thing. He growled and stormed off. Chapter 24. Unexpected guest. Vanessa. Malik was just looking at her, as though she was the most important thing in the world to him. And the next, those warm brown eyes turned colder than ice, rejected her request and stormed off. He left the house, and he didn't come back. Not the next day, or the day after that, nor the day after that. Malik left her. She worried the entire time if he recognized her. Alfred did lovingly point out the resemblance she held of her ancestor Katrina Owens. Malik had recognized her. Why else would he leave? His absence turned her stomach. One night, she was trying to sleep when her window suddenly shattered. She shot out of bed and ran across the room. A mysterious hooded figure came through the window. Vanessa panicked and grabbed a lamp, holding it out threateningly. Who the FCK are you? The figure removed the hood, revealing a familiar face. Really, V? A lamp. Riley. Riley did a bow. In the flesh. She grinned, and Vanessa was everything but amused. What the hell? How did you escape? I wasn't taken in the first place. What's with the hooded, mysterious act? Riley pulled off her gloves. Let's order some pizza. I have one hell of a story to tell you. Vanessa shoved a slice of pepperoni pizza in her mouth. They'd ordered from the place Malik had brought her pizza from. That chard topping was everything. I'm not who you think I am, Riley said as she grabbed a slice of pizza. Vanessa scoffed and shook her head. Why, after all this, does that not surprise me? Riley licked her lips after enjoying a bite of the greasy pizza. I'm coming clean tonight. I really hope you can keep an open mind. Oh, just say it, Ree. At this point, no one and nothing can surprise me. My feet could tell me they were cats in another life, and I would actually believe them at this point. Riley laughed and shook her head. Your sarcasm never gets old. She picked up her beer and took a swig. First of all, I knew what Byron was before you. Vanessa arched her brows in shock. I'm sorry. Riley held her hands up. Please let me finish. I promise every question you have right now is going to be answered. I bet you've had something happen to you recently. Which thing? Be specific, Ree, there's so many. Vanessa spat sarcastically. If you have anything to say to me that might make more sense on things, I need you to just say it. Stop building up anticipation. If you know something I don't or know something I know, quit f***ing dancing around it and just spill the facts. Sorry, I just wanted to prepare you for it. Riley scoffed. God knows you haven't been prepared for any other shit that's gone down. I'm still your friend. Vanessa ran a hand through her hair and sighed. I'm sorry. It's just, literally an hour ago I was laying in a bed alone. Malik was gone. You and Byron were gone. Her voice trembled. Would it make you feel less alone if I told you I'm a hunter too? Riley asked. Vanessa's eyes lit up. Shut up, are you really? Why do you think there was blood all over the apartment? I fought the vampires that took Byron, but unfortunately they got me first and he was gone. They left a note saying they'd taken you too. Oh, they did. I escaped. You left Byron behind because they separated us. I tried to find Byron, I really did, V. But even my sharpest tracking skills couldn't find him. Anything else you wish to tell me about Byron? Vanessa arched her brows knowingly. Riley cringed. You know we hooked up. I had a hunch, then I saw you slap his ass. Which wasn't as discreet as you thought, by the way. I was going to tell you. Just that you couldn't. Because Malik's stupid tantrum and forbidding us to see each other. Speaking of Malik, where is he? Vanessa shrugged. Don't know. But I'm pretty sure if we weren't sworn enemies before, we are now. What happened? Vanessa gasped and held a finger up as an epiphany hit her. Wait, how are you a hunter? Riley helped herself to a cinnamon roll. The hunter gene runs in my family. I thought there was only one bloodline. Riley shook her head. Just like there's many pure blood vampire families, there are many hunters out there. Did you always know you were a hunter? Riley shook her head. Our instincts start to come out as we age, but a pure blood has to wake up the hunter inside. Who woke you up? It happened years ago. A vampire named Lillian Blaze. Did she have a reason for waking you up? She wanted me to kill her. Vanessa choked on her pizza. What? Lillian recently married and was due to have a baby. Her husband was once human. She turned him, and because he wasn't a pure blood, their baby didn't make it. Her husband had gone mad and she had to kill him. She knew my ancestors who were hunters and woke me up to kill her. That's so sad. Did you do it? Did you kill her? Riley nodded. She was my first kill. How did you know I was a hunter? I always knew you were. How did you know mine woke up? Alec and Alfred were talking about you. It's the whole reason they have Byron. Vanessa shook her head. Right, should have known. She chuckled and looked her in the eye. So what now? Now? We kill Malik and get Byron back.
Chapitre 25, Fading Existence.
Malik. Malik had gone straight to Balthazar Manor, that was upstate in the quieter part of New York. Their mansion was more hidden, deep in the woods. He pounded on the front door and a maid in a French-maid outfit opened the door. Alfred and Alec appeared behind her, the fog dissipating around them. Malik, to what do we owe this pleasure? Your quarrel is with me, leave them out of this. Malik growled. Alec grinned ear to ear and laughed. Oh Malik, what kind of hosts would we be if we didn't offer our surprise guest a drink? He pushed the maid toward him. Malik looked at them with spitefulness in his gaze as he grabbed the maid. He bit straight into her throat, clenching his teeth around her windpipe, and tore her throat out. He shoved her dead body to the floor and spit her flesh out onto her. Alec and Alfred looked unshaken. Well, that's not polite. Alfred clicked his tongue and shook his head. Haven't you reached your quota for the year? Does it f***ing matter? You're trying to have me killed anyway. One of you got to her the night she ran out on me. You must think fate is really on your side that I just happened to have an Owens hunter in my home. Malik sneered as he stepped closer to them. You want to kill me? Why don't you do it yourself? Vampires have a pact not to kill each other. Alex said. What a weak excuse for someone so damn powerful. We would kill you ourselves, dear Malik, but something about blackmailing the woman you love to do it seems to do more justice. The irony behind it all, Alfred mused. Oh, because I killed Katrina? The bitch that slaughtered my parents. So you don't deny that you've fallen in love with Vanessa? Alec asked. She's not going to kill me. Malik chuckled. You honestly think Vanessa is going to love you when she finds out what you did to her parents?
Alfred grinned.
Malik furrowed his brows in confusion. What are you talking about? She's convinced there was a car accident. But what happened that night was much more gruesome. Alfred said. I didn't kill her parents. I made myself forget the Owens name after I killed Katrina. No, you didn't. However, by the time we're done, she's going to believe it was you. Alex said as he folded his arms across his chest. Tell me you didn't kill her parents in the name of setting me up. Alfred stroked his chin and thought. It was part of setting you up, but another was to prepare for this. See, when we heard you'd taken a girl in exchange for her brother Byron, we had an inkling she might be a descendant of Katrina. Then when you offered us a drink, the flavor confirmed it. Malik shook his head. Whatever you think you're planning, it's going to be your undoing. I wouldn't be so sure about that. You see, Vanessa's time is short. We took Byron and we are not feeding him our blood. Each day, he loses himself just a little more. Alex said. Malik laughed. You really think she's going to go through with doing a favor for you when she finds out you're causing Byron to lose his humanity? It's not a favor. It's her duty to carry out Katrina's mission in destroying the Cromwell bloodline. Alfred said. Well, aren't you just the courteous little British bitches? Malik sneered with sarcasm. It's not a courtesy to her. It's honoring my Katrina. Isn't that lovely? Malik rolled his eyes. Does Vanessa know that Byron's being dry to the point of rabid insanity? Alec shook his head. No, that's why if she's wise she will hurry. Malik nodded. And what about Riley? Alec and Alfred's composed demeanor shifted a little. She got away. Not sure how. A simple human escaped your grasp when Byron could not? But she's not a simple human, is she? Malik mused. We aren't familiar with her bloodline. Alec admitted shamefully. Malik laughed and shook his head. Did you really think the Owens were the only hunters out there? It's a big world past those puny noses of yours. I've encountered hunters in my day, but they've never had a reason to kill me since I wasn't a threat to society. And how are we to believe they weren't from the Owens? Malik shrugged. Maybe they are. Just like pure blood vampires, we all started somewhere between two people. The Owens line goes back as far as the Balthazars. You should know anything is possible. We are not stupid or weak, you impudent bastard.
Alfred growled.
Malik got up in his face. My family did come to England to overthrow you because stupid and weak is exactly what you are. You're vampires who were once great, but now hide behind your name. Just like the vampires that were once human. Your reasons to live aren't here to fuel you. You may not be losing your minds, but you are losing power. It's why you want her to kill me. It's not that you won't do it yourselves, it's that you can't. Vanessa isn't going to kill me. She's going to kill you. Chapter 26. An igniting touch. Vanessa. Vanessa shook her head. No, Riley, I'm not going to kill Malik. Riley looked at her with a sly grin. Oh, you're not, are you? And why is that? Vanessa shot a death glare at her. You said that because you wanted to hear me say I wouldn't do it, didn't you? Riley laughed. I'm your best friend. I'm not going to judge you for falling for the guy who was going to execute your brother. I haven't fallen for Malik, I just. Riley blinked knowingly and folded her arms. You just what? Vanessa huffed in frustration. It's okay to say it, V. Riley mused. I shouldn't like him. You shouldn't, but you do. Well, I don't want to. Nobody can help who they fall in love with. I don't know if I'm really in love with him, but I do care for him. That I can admit truthfully. And that's okay. Byron wouldn't fault you for it. He may not be a big fan of Malik right now, but if he's someone important he will try. Vanessa was extremely uncomfortable having this conversation. She wasn't one to let people in. But Malik, he somehow slipped through the cracks. Why did it bother her so much when he called her just a human? That would mean his opinion mattered, and if that mattered, then he mattered. What am I going to do, Ree? Riley reached over and rubbed her shoulder. I don't know, but we can figure it out. Honestly, I think he cares for you too. That's what scares me. Why? Most girls would be giddy with excitement. Yeah, when they're in high school. Talk to me, what has you scared? Is it because he's the guy who was going to kill Byron? Vanessa shook her head. I've lost everyone I care about. Except you, Byron, I did lose for a time. I can't lose Malik too. Riley looked her in the eyes. You won't lose Malik. He won't let that happen, and neither will you. I already did. Vanessa's voice shook. He's gone, Riley. He recognized me as a descendant of Katrina Owens and he just left. Riley blew out a sigh and stayed silent, unsure of what to say or do. It's okay though, because this is just what happens to people I care about. How often is it that you find out your brother is a vampire in a city ran by a pure blood king, and that king decides your brother can't live, because he killed a vampire saving you. Then he takes you in despite the situation. He showed nothing but kindness and mercy, and then one night you find out you're a descendant of a vampire hunter line, and now the man you care for is gone. Riley let out a slight chuckle. Not often, I guess. But Byron came back, and I have a hunch Malik will return too. Maybe it's best he's gone, because with him gone, I won't be able to kill him. You could find him if you want. You have a couple of times before. Why not now? Because I don't want to chase him. If he wants to hate me, I want to give him that choice. I don't know my ancestor, but I think I hate her. With good reason by the sounds of it. They want me to kill him for her. Alec and Alfred. Was one of them in love with her or something? Alfred. He's the one that woke me up. The one that told me that he and Katrina were in love. The one to tell me I come from a long line of Owens. The one to tell me I have to kill Malik. And now they're holding Byron hostage until I do it.
I am so sorry. There.
We were supposed to come to New York and enjoy a summer here. It's halfway gone now, and all that's happened is one load of bullshit after another. If Byron's being held hostage, they're likely torturing him. Probably starving him. Vanessa said. And then it hit her. Starving Byron. If they don't give him blood, specifically their blood or Malik's, he will lost his humanity. Oh God. She stood to her feet and began pacing anxiously. Byron's going to be rabid if they don't feed him their blood. Riley stated as it hit her too. Suddenly the door opened and the girls stopped when they saw Malik cross the threshold. He gave Vanessa a curt nod. I'm home. He looked to Riley. It's good to see you alive. He began to head up the stairs, and before Vanessa could stop herself, her feet raced after him and grabbed him. Hey! She yelled when he turned around. What? He asked. What the hell? You just stormed out on me, and you suddenly come back home after a week with, I'm home. What is that about? I'm going to just take the rest of the pizza and go to my hotel. Riley mused and winked at Vanessa as she grabbed the pizza and left. Typical Riley. Finding out what she did and decides her and Malik need to be alone at a really craptastic moment. Malik ignored Riley, his eyes only on Vanessa. I'm not allowed to leave my own home? Vanessa was caught off guard. Well, yeah, it's just. You missed me? He asked, flashing his panty-dropping smile. Vanessa felt her blood start to boil. How was this side of Malik the one thing she hated and drove her crazy, yet it made her hotter for him? She shoved him aside with all her newfound strength. You're right, Malik. What was I thinking? I'm just the human you took so you wouldn't have to kill my brother. What you do is your business and not mine. She went to storm up the stairs when he grabbed her hand and spun her into him. Their eyes stared intensely into one another. It was as though Malik had truly looked into her eyes for the first time. And when she looked into his, she swore she could see into his mind. The heat between their bodies ignited an undeniable spark between them. Malik's hand was on her hip, it slid up her arm to her shoulder, his thumb against her cheek as his fingers curled into her dark hair. He pulled her close and his lips claimed hers in a carnal, passionate, yet loving kiss. Chapter 28, First Lesson. Vanessa. Vanessa woke up the next morning feeling like she'd risen from the dead. That was how well she slept. She sat up and looked around the room. Malik wasn't there to her surprise. She looked over at his pillow where a single white rose was placed with a note. My little white rose. I've had to take care of business down at Lust. I've laid an outfit on your bed and I hope you join me there tonight. Malik. She laid back on the bed and basked in the memories of the previous night. She wasn't sure what significance the white rose had with Malik, but the fact he referred to her as something so pure and beautiful made the butterflies flutter in her tummy. She grabbed his pillow and buried her face into it. It smelled like him, that musky cologne he wears. She breathed it in for a while before looking around his room. It was masculine and elegant all at once. A massive fireplace was across from his bed with a 72-foot flat screen above it. It made her laugh. She couldn't picture Malik watching TV. She grabbed her rose, the note, and headed down to her bathroom on the farthest end of the hall to take a shower. She grabbed her phone and looked at the time. It was well past noon and she had a text from Riley. I'm craving street dogs today, Central Park later? Vanessa's heart swelled with adoration for her best friend. Despite everything, she was still Riley. She texted back the time she could meet her there and went to take a quick shower. She was famished after a night with Malik, so she opted to forego the makeup and threw on a casual outfit. Riley was there holding 2 gourmet hot dogs and gave the one with cheese, onions, relish, ketchup and mustard to her. Vanessa took a large bite before she could even appreciate the vision of it. Riley arched her brows with amusement and sat down on an empty bench, taking a bite of her hot dog with the same condiments minus the ketchup. Slow down, I don't need you choking, V. She chuckled. What's got you so ravenous? Vanessa rolled her eyes. Oh, I think you already know. A knowing grin spread across Riley's lips. You had sex with Malik, didn't you? Is it that obvious? Please, I saw the glow emanating off you before you got into the park. Glow? Vanessa asked coyly. It's pretty obvious when people get some V. They smile a little brighter. Their confidence is boosted. You'll find a pep in their step. And they're emanating that weight of unaddressed horniness being lifted. Vanessa took another bite of her hot dog and chewed it in deep thought. It was incredible, Riley. Is it even moral of me to say that was the best night of my life? Riley shrugged as she was chewing on a bite. It is what it is, V. Personally, I don't think you have anything to feel guilty for. Vanessa sighed. That's not the point. I'm supposed to kill him, and last night I lost my virginity to him while Byron's out there losing his mind by the day. Riley nodded with understanding. I know, it's really complicated right now. Sadly, last night he made me forget the fact he walked out on me, and just mysteriously walked back in. Then he took me to bed and just gave you the night of your life? He still hasn't explained himself. He left God knows when this morning, but he left me a white rose. Ah, that's so sweet, he left you rose. He addressed the note to his little white rose. Maybe that holds some significance to him? Wouldn't know what it means. He left me an outfit to meet him at Luston tonight. Ooh, maybe he wants to take you for some sexy time in the VIP section of his club? I'm not having sex with him in a club. Something tells me he won't make it a public thing. Still think you should go meet him. I'll go with you. You better. But if Malik wants to. Honey, I can entertain myself.
Vanessa laughed. Okay, fine.
Before you go though, where is your gun? Vanessa polished off her hot dog and licked her fingers. It's in a safe around here. Get it out. I'm teaching you how to use it. I've shot a gun before. When I was like 10. Riley laughed. Doesn't mean you know how to shoot one. Particularly a hunter's gun. They're different. How so? They're very powerful. They're literally designed to obliterate an immortal being. What are the bullets, wood or silver? Neither. They're loaded with some sort of spelled substance. Do they ever run out of spelled substance? Riley shook her head. They reload after fired. After the vampire is dead, the substance comes out of them and back into the gun. What am I even going to use this gun on, Ree? That's going to be up to you. I'd rather use it on Alec and Alfred. You could try, but if they help design it, it won't work on them. Unfortunately, you're stuck between killing Malik or letting Byron suffer insanity into his own death. Well, that's just fantastic. Vanessa spat sarcastically. Maybe there's a way to rig the system, but it's going to be tricky. How? First, let's fire the weapon and go from there. The girls grabbed some ice-cold Coke bottles from the hot dog stand, and Vanessa took Riley to the safe where she kept her gun. It was a simple design, pure silver with gold accents. The trigger on the gun was a bit larger than on any other gun. The barrel too appeared a bit wider, almost like a flare gun. She studied the barrel. The ends were frayed as though it shot multiple bullets bigger than it could handle. This was used to take down a couple of vampires. Katrina must have been stellar at combat because the elixir is only good for one vampire at a time. You have a fight on your hands while waiting for that. She is, according to Alfred, from the first family of the Owens bloodline and quite strong. Let's go take this baby for a spin. Riley got an Uber to take them out of town to the rural areas of New York State. You're going to want to stand with your feet aligned with your hips. Keep one foot in front for balance. Don't hold your arms straight out. Aim the gun and relax them. Use your index finger to aim. Vanessa allowed Riley to adjust her stance as needed. She pulled the safety, aimed the gun and pulled the trigger. Nothing. Chapter 29 Malik's Confession. Vanessa. Vanessa shook the gun and banged it against her palm. It's empty. Riley furrowed her brows. They're not supposed to be empty. Ever. If it's empty, I can't shoot it, and if I can't shoot it, I can't do what they want. I don't know, something doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't for me either, but I wonder if they're aware of the fact they gave me an empty gun. Riley nibbled her bottom lip. I don't know. If they want you to kill Malik, why give you a gun that makes the task impossible? Do you know where they are? Riley sighed and nodded. I do, but if we go there, we're taking Byron back with us. As much as I would love to do that, I don't see how that makes sense to do right now. We have to be smart about this. I want to save my brother, but I want to do so without hurting Malik too. Let me see that weapon again, Riley said, holding her hand out for it. Vanessa gave it to Riley and she examined it. This isn't your gun. No, it belonged to my ancestor Katrina. Riley gave it back to her. It's not going to work for you. I can't believe a detail like this would slip right by them. What do you mean? Alfred said that I needed to use this to finish off the Cromwell line. Riley shook her head. Lillian taught me everything I needed to know about being a hunter. She said that when a hunter is awakened, they have to be given a gun specifically for them. No other hunter can use it. Vanessa shook her head in confusion. So what do I do? Riley smiled. Let me hold on to this for now. You need to go get ready to see Malik at Lust. And I'm borrowing an outfit so we can get ready together. Vanessa and Riley headed back to the manor which still had no Malik. She went into the room and picked up the outfit. It's a little sexy. Riley mused. How do I even put a blouse like this on? Riley chuckled. And this is why I'm here. She came up to Vanessa and helped her into the shiny magenta side-strapped blouse. Oh girlfriend, this color makes your hair color and eyes pop, she exclaimed. Malik must really know what looks good on you. Or in this case, what he wants to peel off you. Riley. Vanessa smacked her arm. You're not a virgin anymore, so give up the prude. Riley retorted as she smacked Vanessa's arm. I'm not a prude, this is still just new to me. Okay, I'll give you that. Riley relented. Riley looked over Vanessa as she slid on the black leggings that the blouse hung over. She insisted she do her makeup as well to match the outfit. Riley managed to give Vanessa hot pink and black smoky eyes, and a clear shiny lip gloss so as not to draw away from her eyes. They got in the limo Malik had sent and stepped inside Lust. Riley and Vanessa made their way to the bar. Riley went for a sex on the beach and for Vanessa, a pina colada. Vanessa spotted Malik out of the corner of her eyes and held a hand to her stomach as if it would calm the butterflies fluttering in her belly. He was looking all business with his black blazer and dark blue t-shirt, slacks and loafers. He walked up to her, looking at her as though she were an angel sent to give him mercy for everything he did wrong in his life. You came? His voice was soft yet surprised. What made you think I wouldn't? Vanessa asked as she took a swig of her cocktail. Malik slid into the bar stool next to her. I find with you, I never know what to expect. Did you expect me to wear the outfit?
Honestly, no.
But I'd like to point out that blouse brings out your eyes, and don't even get me started on the way that delicious ass looks in those leggings. He winked. Vanessa should have smacked him. Instead his compliments made her feel sexy herself. Her cheeks flushed as heat rose to them and Malik turned to Riley. Help yourself to anything you want in the club. If you don't mind, I'd like to steal Miss Owens from you. Riley waved her hand at them. Go on, go have fun. I'll gladly take you up on that offer. Malik nodded and took Vanessa's hand, tugging her through the crowd and onto the dance floor. He pulled her into his arms as a slow song started. He swayed with her and she easily fell into rhythm with him. He held her closely, intimately. It's strange to think the last time I had you with me on this floor, you ran off. You remember why I ran off? Malik looked down at her. I remember everything. I want to tell you tonight how sorry I am for the ignorant words I spoke to you. How wrong I've been about you. Vanessa's heart swelled with adoration for him. Since the beginning Malik had always been so distant and cold. Yet with her he seemed more grounded. An apology was the last thing she expected from him, and somehow it didn't surprise her at the same time. I forgive you, Malik. He blew out a sigh of relief as though a burden had been lifted. Thank you. He smiled and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. Thank you. For the white rose. Malik flashed a side smirk. You're welcome. I just have one question. Ask me anything. Why did you refer to me as a white rose in your note? Malik shrugged. I've been calling you my white rose in my head for a while now. Oh. You know why smelling shit is referred to as a rose garden sometimes?
Vanessa giggled. Yeah.
You're like a white rose that's been planted in a pile of crap, and somehow you came out of everything this pure, beautiful soul. I think I might be in love with you, Vanessa. Chapter 31, Deceiver. Malik. Malik woke up as night came and felt around the bed, finding it cold and empty aside from himself. He sat up and listened for any sign of Vanessa in the house. He went to her room, she wasn't there. He went to the library, not there either. Vanessa, he called out. No answer. He went to the kitchen where he'd left his phone and the screen lit up with a text from Julius. Vanessa had been in the kitchen, there were eggs and bacon on the counter, now spoiled at this point. FCK. She saw the text. And what rattled him all the more was that he had no idea what Julius was talking about. But how could she know any different? He growled as he rubbed his hands over his face and threw the eggs across the kitchen. He didn't even care that egg had gotten all over his walls, the marble counters and the tile floor. She hated him. She had to. Now that Byron was no longer leveraged, she had no obligation to be there. He grabbed his phone and called Vanessa. Voicemail. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Vanessa, it's Malik. Please know that whatever text you saw, it's not what you think. Please believe me. He texted her the same message just to make sure she got it. He then called Julius. Hey, Julius said after picking up. What is this information you think I asked you to find? We had this conversation last week, remember? I can say with complete and utter honesty that I don't recall it. I never had anyone killed. You know me by now, I do my dirty work myself. Malik, you're confusing me. We sat there at Lust. You asked me to dig up some information about some people you had killed a few years ago. Who did I have killed? Miranda and Daniel Owens. You wanted it staged as an accident. And why would I need you to find some information about people I had killed? You wanted a DNA test to confirm that they were Byron and Vanessa's parents. I'm on my way to Lust. Meet me there. You're going to show me exactly how this conversation went. Malik hung up the phone. He got in the shower and stood there under the pouring water questioning his very existence. Julius was so sure of all this and yet Malik recalled nothing. He never had anyone killed. As he said before, if he wants someone dead, he goes and does it himself. He drove his own car to Lust and went inside. Julius was there waiting for him. Your timing couldn't be any more impeccable. Malik growled as he sat down at the bar. Why? Julius asked, confused. Don't worry about it, just know I'm pissed at you. I just did what you asked me to and got back with you just like you asked. Malik shot Julius a glare. You and Aaron are my most trusted right-hand men. How is it that there is some kind of conversation we had about this, and you're completely convinced of it? Well, I admit I was confused when you approached me. See, I didn't know you had some people killed a few years ago, but you were so sure you did that I went along with it. You asked me to get a DNA test to confirm their relation to Byron and Vanessa. You told me to text you as soon as I had it. So I did. Malik rubbed his hand over his face. And then it hit him. Recent events raced through his mind. A threat that the Balthazar twins made. He just remembered that they were known shapeshifters able to take on any form they desire. Now this was making sense and he had to be quick-witted. He looked at Julius and asked a question only he would know. What is the password to access my family's tombs? The password? Julius chuckled and shifted uncomfortably. Oh, don't tell me you forgot. Malik sneered. You are after all one of 3 that knows it. Julius' face began to disappear and in its place Alfred appeared. You figured me out. Malik rolled his eyes. You really thought I wouldn't? It became too obvious after a minute. How so? Well, at first, I had a hunch that you may have approached Julius as myself, but then asking him to get some DNA tests from someone I had killed years ago, he wouldn't have done that. He's not that stupid. Then I remembered some little threat you made a while ago about framing me for the death of their parents. Honestly, Alfred, you and Alec need to do better than this to pull one over on me. Malik shook his head. Oh dear Malik, we already have done better. See, we knew Vanessa would be the first to see that message. Malik gave Alfred a menacing look. There was only one way they could have sent that message from Julius. What did you do with Julius? I thought you'd never ask. Alfred mused as he went behind the bar and pulled up a large jar with Julius' head and heart inside of it. Malik closed his eyes. Julius was his friend and right hand since he built New York. There he was, his head and heart in a jar. That is how Julius' life ends. With Alfred's bitterness toward Malik. What reason did you have for killing a vampire who had nothing to do with any of this? He was your friend, right? He had everything to do with it. He helped make this city what it is. Empires rise, empires fall, and the good captains always go down with their ship. Julius was collateral damage. Malik stood up seething with rage. His hands trembled at their sides. Alfred noticed his state of anger and hatred and let out a mocking laugh. Ah, did I kill someone you care about? Malik bore his fangs and lunged himself at Alfred, both men crashing through the glasses along the bar. Chapter 32. Now she's awake. Vanessa. Vanessa didn't waste a second as she ran upstairs, got dressed, grabbed her phone and purse and left. She pounded on Riley's hotel room door. You look like you've just seen a ghost. Riley said groggily as she rubbed her eyes. Vanessa looked at her with shock and loss of what to do in her eyes. Malik killed my parents. Vanessa's voice shook. Riley's eyes widened and she grabbed Vanessa's hand and pulled her inside. Okay. Start from the beginning, what happened? Vanessa sat down and Riley grabbed a water bottle from the mini fridge, handing it to her. I was so happy when I woke up this morning. Vanessa cried as she opened the water bottle and took a large swig. So last night Malik and I, this morning I went to make myself some food and the counter vibrated. It was his phone. I looked at the text message that lit up and it said, I got the information you wanted. The people you had killed were Vanessa and Byron's parents. I just ran upstairs, threw some clothes on, grabbed my purse and phone and was in a taxi over here. Riley sat down and rubbed her back soothingly. Oh V, I'm so sorry. Do you know who the text was from? Julius, one of his right-hand men. Oh wow. Why would Malik go after your parents? Because we are the Owens. My ancestor killed his family. I don't blame him for going after my family but my parents. Vanessa bowed her head and sobbed into her hands. Shoulders shaking, voice shaky and wailing. Oh V. Riley put her arms around her and held her as she cried. Vanessa's parents were amazing. She could honestly say she was raised in a good home. Miranda was a loving mother and Daniel was a strict but loving father too. As she grew older, she credited the way they raised Byron to be the reason he stepped up the way he did after they passed. She thought her world sank when she was ordered to kill Malik. But now, after he told her he was in love with her, he was the reason her parents were taken from her. How could she forgive this? You know what he said last night? Vanessa muttered after the sobs calmed down. What's that? He looked me in the eyes and told me he thinks he's in love with me. Riley's eyes widened. Whoa, that's a little heavy. The worst part is I think I'm in love with him too. Vanessa fell back into Riley's arms as the sobbing started back up. Oh V, that's not your fault. The man is damn charming, and he was so kind and respectful to you. Even ruffled your feathers a bit. I'd be worried if you didn't fall for him. I can't love him. It's bad enough he was going to kill my brother, but to find out he's the reason my family fell apart and Byron ghosted me, it's not right to love him. You can't make any rash decisions right now. Tell you what, finish your water, you go take a shower cause girlfriend, you reek of sex and blood, you probably want to wash Malik off you. Just sort yourself out in the nice, hot, pouring water. Vanessa nodded. Yeah, I do need to go wash the son of a bitch off me. She finished the water and went to the bathroom. She stepped into the nice hot shower and sighed as it poured over her. She took her time shampooing, conditioning, washing, exfoliating and shaving. Her thoughts wandered until the hot water put them all into one place and fell one at a time. She could admit to herself she was attracted to Malik at first. Even after making up his mind to kill Byron, she couldn't ignore the fact he took the time to hear the pleas of one that was just a human. But he wasn't always so great. The time Alfred and Alec came into the picture, and he offered her up as their guest drink, it wasn't anything like when he bit her. They were painful, and she simply just endured it. When Malik bit her it was erotic and she honestly craved his bite. But what if all this was just a play? A way to really destroy her family, a way to destroy her? What if her resemblance to Katrina Owens was the reason Malik made her fall for him? What if he left his phone on the counter so she would see the text and run away? Maybe Malik would hunt her down now. Play on her weaknesses now that she bore her body and soul to him. Vampires, they really are cruel creatures. Even the nature turned Byron cold enough to ghost her for 3 years. How could she spend all those years building up walls only for Malik to peel through the layers one by one as he did her clothes when they were in his bedroom? Of course he made it wonderful. He wanted her to fall for everything. Vanessa was sure of it. Suddenly she felt a whole new hatred for vampires. Those cruel and deceitful creatures would pay for ripping her family apart. She got out of the shower and dried herself off. She put some lotion on herself and stepped out of the bathroom bare and naked to raid Riley's clothes. I know what I have to do. Talk to him. Vanessa shook her head. She'd made up her mind. I did a lot of thinking in the shower, Ree. I certainly hope so. You were in there for like an hour. Like you said, I had to wash Malik off myself. Personally, V, whatever you're about to say, I really think you owe it to yourself to talk to Malik first. Get some answers. What answers could he possibly give? They're all vampires and they're deceitful and cruel. Malik played me. He set everything up so I would fall for him. He wants me to feel the irony of loving a man who killed her family. I'm awake now and I am killing them all, Riley. Starting with Malik Cromwell.